Hey everyone, welcome to Wild Whispers, the podcast where we take a deep dive into the incredible stories of animals that have shaped our world. Today, I welcome our very special guest on the podcast, Mr. Adit Swaminathan. Mr. Adit Swaminathan has been working with sea turtles since the tender age of 11 and is currently working with the Turtle Foundation as a scientific advisor for their projects in Indonesia. His primary focus has been working with leatherback sea turtles in the northeastern Indian Oceans, and he's previously also worked with Dakshin Foundation conducting research on leatherback in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands between the years 2010 and 2024. He's also a trustee of the Student Sea Turtle Conservation Network, an NGO that works towards the conservation of olive ridley sea turtles along the coast of Chennai. So, Mr. Adit, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And how do you feel being here?
Thank you for having me. I've never been on a podcast before, so let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. While reading your introduction, I feel the thing that stayed with me was how you started working with sea turtles at the age of 11, a very tender age when people often start developing interests. You already worked with sea turtles and you found your passion, which is something really striking. And I would love to know your journey, how it started when you were 11 and how you widened your interest into this field.
So I'm from Chennai, which is a coastal town in Tamil Nadu on the east coast of India. I studied in a school called Krishnamurti Foundation of India, and there was a gentleman called Tito Chandy who came and delivered a presentation to us, to the students, not to my class specifically, but basically to give an introduction to the world of sea turtles and the fact that there's actually a conservation organization working towards the protection and conservation of olive ridley turtles along the coast of Chennai. And at 11, I used to be out and about on the beach quite often with family, with friends. It was like I would consider it a backyard. And to be told that these sea turtles at that point, we could only see it on TV and nowhere else. I mean, there's not much of books that we could access other than physical books. So I thought, okay, they invited us to go on these turtle walks. Basically, it's a guided walk along the beach, which is about 7 kilometers in length. And they look for tracks, they look for nests, they look for any sea turtle activity. And then if they find any activity, they look for the nest. They take the nest, put it in this place called a hatchery, which is nothing but a fenced area on the beach, which provides protection for these eggs. And when the babies hatch, they release it. So yeah, since we all had school between Monday and Friday, the only time we could go was either Friday night or Saturday night.
Yeah.
So at the age of 11, I had my brother who was 4 years elder than me. So at that age, actually, they demanded that there needs to be a guardian, someone older, like a parent, to accompany this child or children that are coming. And my brother was luckily my guardian. So he was old enough to take care of me and watch for me and be responsible for me. And yeah, it just started off like that. The curiosity to see turtle activity, see turtle nesting or turtle itself. Unfortunately for me, my fortune was very bad. It took me about 4 years of walking between December to April on Fridays and Saturdays. I think I was pretty regular. I think I was one of the regular walkers, but I never came across a turtle actually laying its eggs. I saw nests, I saw tracks, I saw hatchlings, but the sea turtle itself, live sea turtle itself, was very elusive for me. And of course, we came across a ton of dead turtles, which is probably one of the main reasons why they're doing this work. And I think that's sort of what kept me going. The fact that it continued to be a mystery for a good 4 years, and I finally saw it. I mean, it was special. I can't recall how it was and what I felt, but obviously it left an impression on me, and there was a sense of responsibility that I felt that I had to continue doing it in my own time and space. So it's not like I decided or knew what I was doing in life.
Yeah.
It's not like I wanted to pursue this as my career or anything of that. It's just that I had the time on Fridays and Saturdays. I could put my efforts towards it, so I continued doing it. And then, of course, as you get older, you can make your own decisions. You can go on not just Fridays and Saturdays. You can go during the weekdays, be more useful. So Yeah, through college, I continued to coordinate these efforts and yeah, was very much involved in the work that was happening there.
Wow, I loved how a weekend activity turned into a full-fledged profession. And also, I feel the thing that you rightly pointed out, you lived on a coast, so you felt an X amount of responsibility that you should be working towards bettering the ecosystem around you, which is something that people don't really focus on, right? But I think that's also one of the main aims of this podcast. Um,
But at the
and
age of 11, I must tell you that it's not that I had that responsibility or I felt that responsibility.
okay,
It was nothing but curiosity that kept me going. And the fact that I could see something like a sea turtle right on the beach that I live in was probably the easiest thing that I could do to witness something that is so prehistoric. Uh, the sense of responsibility came in
yeah,
much later when I was older, when I could actually make a difference. But at that young age, I would say I really have to say that I'm very privileged that my parents allowed me to do this on a regular basis, and gave me the freedom to, be inspired and do things like this.
yeah, I think these things do happen by chance. I mean, I bet most of the ecologists and researchers that we know today, I'm sure they wouldn't have decided that, I do want to research in this particular animal or in this particular plant. I'm sure it would have just happened by chance. It would definitely be their curiosity, their I don't know, a certain interest towards the animals that have drawn them into what they're doing today. And I think that's what also differs from what people are doing in this age, especially in the digital age, where most of us would rather sit watch a movie of a beach rather than actually go on a beach. And so we our priorities have changed, the kind of curiosity that we do have has changed. But yeah, I'm sure there still are a lot of nature seeking people who do want to know more about nature, who do want to solve those mysteries about nature, or simply just admire what nature has done today. Which actually takes me to my next question. I would love to know what a typical work day looks like, because most people have this misconception about conservationists, saying that they're just all about social media, they're just about posting like save turtle banners, or they're about just making these kind of rallies and stuff, but it's a lot of practical work, a lot of field work that goes behind this, and I would love for you to uncover those mysteries about your life.
Well, things have changed until very recently, until 2024 May. I was pretty much living in the Andaman Nicobar Islands. I was there for about 9 to 10 months of the year. And during the nesting season is when our efforts are concentrated on the nesting beach, trying to collect the data that we collect. But things have changed now. I am back to Chennai. I work from home. I visit Indonesia 4 to 5 times a year to go see what's happening, train the staff over there. I would kind of say that wildlife ecology or wildlife work is sort of romanticized a lot. It's not as exciting and as easy and what you see in National Geographic or movies, nothing like that. Like, for example, my field work in the Andamans between close to November to about maybe February, March, we camp out on this two beaches called West Bay and South Bay. We're
Okay.
a team of about 7 people, three of us in West Bay, four of us in South Bay. And yeah, it's an uninhabited island. You don't really have too many people going there. So you're pretty much living with no electricity, no network, no companionship other than probably your team. And our task is to walk 7 kilometers of the beach, at least up and down every day. So we're walking at least 14 kilometers a day.
What a
And
workout.
looking for, I mean, it sounds wow and amazing, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You do it 1 month, 2 months, 1.5 months into it, you're like, I just want to come back and hit the bed as soon as I can. Some days you're like, I wish there are no turtles so I don't have to like spend more time on the beach. So you have your good days and bad days like any other profession. It's not like every day is rewarding and you wake up feeling grateful all the time. Now, we all get tired, we all get burnt out as well. And there is a lot of isolation that comes along with working in such remote sites. So you are away from family, you are away from friends, you are finding new connections. It's a different way. It's a different way of going about doing things compared to how things are now. I wasn't connected all the time to the internet. I couldn't just drop a WhatsApp message to someone, be like, "What are you up to? What's happening?" It was all planned. Like we would get picked up on a certain day, taken to the town a certain day, get network a certain day, speak, get updated, pass on information, and then again go back to our little wilderness. So yeah, I mean, that's really what pushed me or excited me the most, doing the fieldwork aspect, because sea
Hmm.
turtles have taken me to some of the remotest parts of the Andaman Nicobar Islands and some parts of the
Yeah.
world. And just following them has exposed me to different environments, different habitats, different geographies, different people, different communities. It's that's what really excited me, that I got an exposure through sea turtles, that I learned more about myself, life, and things like that.
Hmm.
Not specifically that I'm doing something that's going to make a difference to sea turtle as such.
Yeah. Right. I think a lot of people do face this problem of FOMO as well, right? I mean, when you're not connected to the world, where you're in a completely isolated place, there's a lot that you miss out. But I feel there's a lot that you gain as well, right? On the hindsight, when it comes to the feeling that you're doing something for the environment. Doesn't matter if it's really affecting or not, but at least you're trying, you're making an attempt. So that really matters. And I feel a lot of people out here, especially in today's age, they feel that anything is a problem. They kind of do have to stand up. But the only way of standing up, according to them, is putting posters on social media, doing these hashtag trends. But I feel that's really not something that makes a difference. You have to go close to the environment. You have to see what exactly is going wrong and what exactly should be fixed. That's when you can make a difference, right? I mean, again, coming to sea turtles, I cannot sit here in Dubai and talk about the sea turtles in Andaman without actually being there. So yeah, I think I love how you gave a very frank and honest look out of your life. Since we were talking about how sea turtles took you to different areas of Andaman, which I'm sure you otherwise wouldn't have explored, I think ecotourism is something that I would love to talk about, right? Ecotourism is often seen as a double-edged sword because it promotes awareness, but at the same time, it also harms what it seeks to protect. I mean, I know a lot of tourist hotspots, especially in areas like Indonesia, Andaman, coastlines, basically, where people do have this idea of chilling at the beach, going to areas where sea turtles will be present, taking pictures. And I feel in some way they do disrupt the environment there. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a very exciting thing to do. But at the same time, you are causing this impalpable impact on the environment, something that cannot be fixed, right? So, in terms of sea turtles, what do you think are the impact of ecotourism, and how do you think people generally behave when they see a sea turtle for the first time?
Mm, I mean, I think ecotourism is good. I think there is a slight difference between ecotourism and nature-based tourism. A lot of people like to be in nature, and there are various tourist companies that allow you to do that. I think ecotourism, the slight difference is you sort of prioritize the environment or the species that you're going to witness in some sense. So if it's done right, I think it's a great tool to educate people. And like you said, it's very, very difficult for people to connect with things like wildlife and nature these days, given how everyone's on their phone and on their screens. So ecotourism is a great structured way for people to witness wildlife in its truest sense. So I worked in Tortuguero in Costa Rica for my master's thesis dissertation, and the entire community benefited from the ecotourism program that they had. You had a lot of tourists coming in from different parts of the world who want to witness the sea turtle nesting. They have specific rules about how many people can crowd around a turtle, what light to use, what to wear on the beach, a guide that accompanies this group, and things like that. So the entire community benefits because they are the rangers who are taking people out to show the sea turtles laying their eggs or hatchlings coming out. People are staying in homestays that are built within the community. So economically, the entire community benefits, and the money is also used towards conservation. The animal also benefits, the habitat benefits. Everything sort of is a win-win. So I think there are many, many projects around the world where community-based ecotourism has worked really well, and there are several examples to show that if done right, everyone can benefit. And the idea is that you're not going to focus on just protecting the turtles, because just protecting the turtles is only going to be beneficial to turtles, not to the people around it, not to the environment around it. So a holistic approach sort of seems to be the working model right now.
Mm-hmm. I think one more thing when it comes to sea turtles is definitely the threats that are posed to sea turtles in today's day and age, right? And when I
Yeah,
first read about sea turtles, I think the most primary information that was given was about how many sea turtles are poached every year, right? Like when I ran
yeah,
some numbers, I found out that almost 44,000 sea turtles are poached every year. And this is not just a story bound to India or to Costa Rica, but it's about in 65 countries that this poaching goes on. And a question that I would love to ask you specifically is that is this whole poaching thing done for economic purposes or economic ambitions, or is there any cultural or systemic aspect to poaching as well?
well, poaching sort of became illegal in maybe in the last 50, 60, 70 years in many
Yeah.
countries. Prior to that, it was a resource like fish or any other wild animal that people caught and used or ate. It was a source of protein. So there are two aspects. You make it illegal, you make it difficult to get to, then there's a growing market and growing demand for it in some sense. Therefore, there's an economical drive towards it. The
Mm.
other aspect is that people who are living around these coastal habitats that overlap with sea turtles, either on a nesting beach or a coral reef or a seagrass meadow, uh, for years they've been poaching or eating these turtles, and no one stopped them. Right? It wasn't a bad thing. It became a bad thing when it started becoming commercial, when the scale at which the poaching happened increased.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes a problem. So I think a lot of communities have sea turtles as a very culturally significant thing, or it's part of traditions. Like in Bali, they do certain rituals with sea turtles on certain days. Luckily for us in India, the threats are not as specific or direct as like taking the turtles or poaching these turtles, because they consider the sea turtle as a reincarnation of God, the Kurma avatar, as they call it. And India is probably the only place in the world where there's a temple dedicated to the Kurma avatar, which is a sea turtle. So it varies from country to country, community to community. Within the Andaman Nicobar Islands, the indigenous communities have rights to
Yeah.
take sea turtles, to take wild pigs, to take whatever wild animals that has been part of their life for eons.
Yeah.
And I would say that's completely fine, because it's not like they are doing it in an unsustainable manner. The size of these communities are small, and the number of turtles that they're actually eating on an annual basis is not going to impact the population as a whole.
Yeah.
So there are various aspects when you look at poaching. Everyone only looks at the fact that, whoa, 44,000 is a huge number that's going away on an annual basis or a monthly basis or whatever it is. But it's a lot more complex a problem than just addressing saying, okay, just make sure that no one's taking the turtles. Then people who have been dependent on these resources for years now lose out on that. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, it's a case by case basis, I would say.
I think since we're talking about the economic aspect of poaching, do you think that, like in Andaman, Nicobar, or in any coastline areas that are not very developed, the
Yeah.
lack of jobs or the lack of professions, does that make the villagers or the people living there do all of these kind of activities just for money? Or do you think that, there's some further depths into this topic?
uh, Not everyone's always doing it for money. Like I can be a fisherman, I can catch a turtle, bring it back home, share it with my neighbors, eat it, and be happy. It doesn't have to always have an economical benefit that way. And like I said, sea turtles have been used as a source of protein like any other animal. So if you've been doing that for years, why should I stop because a researcher or a scientist or a conservationist is saying, oh, you can't eat it anymore or whatever it is. So in the Andamans, access is very easy, and people tend to like turtles for some reason. They like the taste. They also obviously don't eat it on a regular basis, but whenever they do chance upon a turtle, they do once in a while poach on them. I'm not talking about the indigenous communities. I'm talking about the settler communities that are there in the Andamans. So there's also maybe a market. You obviously, since it's illegal, you're not going to go around asking people, I have 10 kgs of sea turtles. Do you want to buy it? It's more of the small scale sort of, yeah, sort of thing. So yeah, I think in the Andamans it happens, but not at a scale at which, again, it's affecting these populations.
Okay. Yeah. As a conservationist, what is your main job in these coastlines when it comes to community building? Is your job to make the community aware of the threats that are posed to sea turtles, or is it just to kind of get them involved in ensuring that the activities that they're doing do not harm the sea turtles to a greater extent?
Well, there are communities, like I said, in the Andamans that sort of share, co-inhabit spaces that the turtles are in. So they have an idea. They have a connection with sea turtles in some way or the other. They've seen it more often than us sitting in cities. They know what sea turtles are. They know the types of sea turtles that there are. They have local names for the sea turtle species that are present in this area. So it's not like they're disconnected. They're very much connected.
Okay.
What they probably are unaware of or probably need to be aware of or sensitized is the global situation for sea turtles as a whole for the species. So you might still have hundreds and thousands of turtles nesting in an area, and life's great. Turtles are doing well. There seems to be no problem, but there are populations around the world that are declining drastically and need some urgent attention. So some information is used to ensure that, like, okay, the community will ensure that it doesn't get there, where we are depleting the number of turtles or the turtles laying eggs here, and things like that. So different aspects, depends on the group of people that you're trying to sensitize. Like, for example, I was a student. It's not like I made any difference to the world whether I was eating sea turtles or not eating sea turtles or whatever it was. I'm a nobody. So just knowledge, the fact that you're passing on this information, sensitizing people about sea turtles and their life cycle. I think there is a value to it. You build a connection with any animal. It doesn't have to be sea turtles specifically. It could be
Yeah.
any animal, like you said. But the idea is to bring about awareness, to bring about an understanding of the status of sea turtles and the impact that humans as a whole have on it, and
Okay.
how we can probably make a difference in conserving them or protecting them.
Mm-hmm. Now, coming to my concluding question, because I feel the aim of this podcast was just to drive the point that the conservation of sea turtles is not just limited to that species, but it kind of has a greater impact on even the people living on the shores, right? So, suppose I'm living on the coastal region of Chennai, for example, right? What is something you would tell me to do as a responsible person living on the coast? Is there something I should remember while I'm, spending half of my day on the beach, or while I'm even kind of living in a symbiotic environment with these organisms? And secondly, for the youngsters, like someone came to you and they gave a session about sea turtles, what are some ways you will use to inspire other youngsters to at least attempt to make a change or attempt to know about the sea turtle species in India?
Well, this won't be probably specific to India, but I would say that uh, I would kind of like disagree with you with your initial point, saying someone sitting in Dubai cannot make a difference to a turtle nesting in Chennai. And I think now that we're connected even more because of our phones and everything else, I feel like there's a role that anyone can play with any sort of conservation project
Yeah.
sitting anywhere.
Right.
A person giving money or being a funder for a project doesn't necessarily need to know a lot about sea turtles or know what is happening on
Yeah.
ground, but just
Good.
providing resources is a way to,
Contribute.
continue something that's going on. As to youngsters, like I would say, like the organization Student Sea Turtle Conservation Network, like as the name suggests, it is run by volunteers. It's no one's paid to do what they do. No one is forced to do what they do.
Yeah.
What you're contributing to the organization and sea turtles is basically your time and of course energy and effort. So, and this organization has been active since almost 1988, and it's continuously been fueled by just volunteers. And our job, or one of the things that we need to do, is sensitize people, saying this is what's happening, this is what you can do. I mean, of course, you don't have to be walking on the beach on a regular basis to collect every egg that's being laid there. Obviously, some people can't do that, but just understanding how your actions or your choices could impact sea turtles. For example, if you're going to be eating fish or prawns or any seafood from trawlers, you are it is going to involve a lot of bycatch. And that could include sea turtles, not just sea turtles. It could be sea snakes, it could be dolphins, it could be cetaceans, sharks, whatever it is,
Sea
everything.
species, yeah.
So just things, knowledge about that, knowing where your fish is coming from. Is it from an artisanal fisherman or a traditional fisherman, or is
Yeah.
it from a mechanized fishing fleet that you're getting it from?
Hmm.
Could make a difference. You might not necessarily be protecting turtles directly, but you're supporting a traditional fishing community and the way they fish, which is a lot more sustainable and therefore protecting not just sea turtles, but other marine life as well. So, yeah, there are various things. I think nowadays you just need to scroll through Instagram and you're probably given 10 tips to protect sea turtles or any other animal that you want. Some of it is, of course, clickbait, but some of it is also
True.
pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for giving us such an unconventional and fresh perspective on conserving sea turtles, right? Because, like I previously mentioned, and even you mentioned right now, most of the tips that are given on Instagram ask you to directly get involved in saving a sea turtle, or, like even, I don't know, being present there and actually observing these sea turtles. But that's not something everyone can do, right? And these kind of indirect actions are something that do impact sea turtles and rather any species for that matter in a large way. And I loved how you gave the idea of informing our public not just about the biological reasons of saving a sea turtle, but also something that's easily relatable and that everyone can understand, right? Because if tomorrow you give me a bunch of statistics, being a person enjoying bio, I will definitely buy it. But tomorrow, if I give it to another person who's not very interested in this, he might say that it's not my job to save a sea turtle, right? Like that's not
Yeah.
something I was born for. That's not something I should be doing. But I think involving the consensus in this is what's going to bring you into saving a lot more sea turtles that I think people in decades have not been able to. And thank you so much for that. And I'm sure that this podcast was quite a light yet informative episode. So, again, thanks once again for being on the show. And I loved how you kept it extremely simple, extremely relatable. And I'm sure a bunch of our audience are going to enjoy this. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And do share this episode with a lot more wildlife enthusiasts. Till then, keep exploring, keep learning, and stay tuned to Wild Whispers because we believe that every animal has a tale to tell.